Time to watch for the moves, they're not hard to find. Strong arm tactics so loud, only themselves in mind. Every player has dreams of making Orca fame. They'll live on in the minds of those who get in their way. Orcas all say, don't come for me. Mid-merge boots, they're so vain. As we set up the podcast webcam, the pod is here to talk Orca game. Orca King CK with delusions of fame. In this LRG world, he's the apex predator. Danny and Jules in tow, always ready to go. Now it's time for the show, they're the apex predators.
Hello and welcome to the Orca Pod, the Apex Predators of Australian Survivor LRG podcasting. Here we are for the finale recap of Uncharted Waters. The waters have been charted by Captain Evan, who sailed to victory in this final moment. Was it a Steve Bradbury, or did he really turn on the performance in the final episode to win it all? We'll discuss all that and more this evening. Plus, hopefully, we'll have all four of the players that we are yet to interview that were featured in this episode, whether as winners or losers. KK, Mieta, Ash, and of course, the winner, Evan, joining the alumni of Survivor LRG winners. Just a quick update because we're at the start of the show and I know not everyone stays to the end. The coverage does not end with this finale episode. Next week, we're taking a slight detour from Uncharted Waters and we'll have a special episode about Canberra Survivor 4, for which you've all probably seen the cast release coming out at the moment. Josh is going to try and join from Bali. This is not going to be a success, Josh. Sorry, the Canberra events that are coming out at the moment, the Canberra people, we're going to be having a special episode about that. Stay tuned next week. Following that, we're going to have a tea party. Annabelle is going to be taking the hot gossip to some of the more fiery members of Uncharted Waters. It might be the chance we finally see the great debate between Jules, Danny, and the Lentil King, Greg. Who will win said debate? We'll have to wait and see. And then the moment the entire cast is waiting for, week after that, I'll chat with production as we wrap up our coverage and we will crown a new Orca. Evan may have won the game, but that is meaningless in comparison to being crowned the Orca of the season. All of that to come in the next few weeks as we ramp up to coverage of Canberra and Sydney Survivor 2. Lots coming in the LRJ world. And let me welcome in my fellow Orcas to talk about this episode and everything that took place. Let's welcome first Loz. I didn't do the drum roll. Sorry.
Where was my drum roll?
Sorry. I talked for too long. I'll get it going now.
Okay.
Yeah. Do the applause. Everyone's excited to see you.
You look very nice.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I
You
love
look
your
nice
pink
too.
jacket. Thank
You
you.
look very nice as well. Did you? And we'll talk about this again. Let's bring in the bounty hunter. I'm sure he's got lots of fun opinions on the episode. Let's bring him in, Mark.
Hi.
You want to wear your backyard buff?
No, never.
You're wearing your backyard buff.
Me? Of course I am.
Yeah.
As
Do you always
part
wear
of
that?
as part of an entertaining season, I'm here to represent. My kind were underrepresented this episode.
Look, I'm gonna
We
put
haven't
in
even started. That was a burn.
I'm going to have a fierce defense for this finale. I think it was pretty strong. And now, look, Josh is here. Josh isn't supposed to be here because he's in Bali. Last time we tried to do this remote shit with Mark, it was a fail. I am sure this will be a fail. But we will bring you in, Josh, so you can gloat about being in Bali and then you can leave. Welcome.
Hi. Hello, yeah, I'm just chilling by the pool. Haven't eaten in 48 hours. Just living my best life. Yeah,
Do you have barley belly?
too
Are you
much
sick?
drinking.
Ah.
Oh, no, 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 no. I'm not like a weak person. I never get barley belly. Just too much alcohol. But thought I'd get onto it. Cheers. Mm,
Well, it's
mm.
lovely to have you here gloating. It's a bit glitchy. Why don't you just give us your hot takes on the episode, and then you can go off and enjoy yourself.
Um, yeah, look, bit, great. Enjoyed the season definitely, but I do think that there was one obvious robbed player. So yeah, I do wish that Ash made it to the end. But yeah, good season overall. What can I say?
That's your final hot take. Good season overall. That's it.
Decent.
Going in barley, give us
Yeah.
something spicier than that.
Well, yeah. I mean, honestly, I would have voted for KK, to be honest with you. I just wish she just kind of was giving the energy of like she didn't really care if she won or not. I wish she would have brought some fire because I think, that both of them kind of had no real, strategic game. KK slayed the social game, really. I would have given it to her for the social game. Yeah.
All right. Well, I like this takes. We're going to get into all of this. Josh, thanks for all your assistance covering this season. You truly delivered on your awkwardness. Well done. Enjoy barley.
Thanks, will do. And yeah, I'll be trying to watch the proceedings. So yeah, thanks. Love you
You can't
guys.
miss
It's
it,
been
baby.
an honor to be serving the Orca pod with all you iconic orcas, especially Loz,
Thanks,
Queen.
Josh. Love you. Okay. Now, I want to put in a furious defense for Evan's performance in this episode. I think that it was
Was that Josh being KK during Final Tribal Council? Just kind of.
Hey, I
Not
love you,
very
Mom.
much.
I want to. Can we? I think that Evan's performance in this finale is reminiscent of Chris Underwood. He started at a low position, but I don't think he put a step wrong to ensure he won the game. He may not have had strategy up until this point, and he may have left himself with one pathway, which he absolutely walked the tightrope on and got the result. Everything that happened in this episode happened because Evan wanted it to happen the way it went. Thoughts?
Loz, you
Loz
start.
does not look happy with this assessment.
No. I have a really hard time with that because it played out how Evan wanted it to play out simply because he won immunity. Now, relying on winning immunity to get yourself to the end of the game is the biggest risk you can possibly take. If that is your only path to the end, that's a massive risk. And he got there because he won 2 immunities. That's it. That I disagree that there was. I agree there wasn't really, the strategy wasn't there. I agree that he didn't do anything to put himself in a position not to win if he made it there. But he only got there because of those 2 immunity wins.
Which immunity though? Like, I think there was a strategy around the second immunity. I think he had a lot of confidence he could beat KK and Ash in a challenge, and I think that's fair confidence.
Agreed, but that first immunity win where he beat Nieta, that was just chance. That was just luck.
So
I think Evan's game was a game of luck. I don't think he played strategically. I don't think he had really a long-term game. I think it was stick to the plan of just play in the shadows, stay behind the scenes, and fingers crossed when it gets to the crux of it, you can pull it out by winning a couple of immunities.
Yeah, I agree with Loz.
I think Mars's and strategies of just winning immunities also were not that strong. Like, I agree with Mar that relying on immunity wins is not a strong way to get to the end. And it showed with Mars because Mars, to me, neglected the social game because he was relying on his immunity wins. And Mieta, it could have gone either way. Mieta could have won that. Evan goes. Could have gone. Mars could have won and Ash goes. But it only came down to immunity, not necessarily any particular strategy.
I just think I'm not saying Evan had considerable strategy before this moment. I just feel like he delivered like it was a tightrope, but he delivered on the outcomes. Are you saying that you're certain he gets voted out if he loses the spinny ball challenge to Mieta? Do you think he goes?
Yeah, I do. I do.
What does Ash go?
In that case. So, yes.
I think Ash goes.
I don't think so. I think she would have reeled. Well, I think she had already had KK and she would have reeled Mieta back in. I think Evan would have gone.
I'm not so sure about that. Like, I can tell you in the real time that Evan absolutely did change his vote at that tribal council once it was announced it was a final two. He was going to be voting for Ash,
yes,
and sending Ash and Mieta to a challenge. That was absolutely his plan until he found out it was a final two. And I think there's a good chance that he could have ended up in the challenge with Ash if Mieta had stayed. Because I think that is where Mieta... We can speak to her when she comes on the show. Now, the hilarious thing about the challenge is we'd sort of packed up most of the stuff, including like the fire stuff. And we didn't know where any of the flints were because people kept stealing them, like, Nat and Xavier. So we're like talking, we're like, what if they draw here? What have we got planned? And it's like, fuck, we don't have anything planned. Can we get the fire going? No, like no one has any flints. Like stupid Xavier and Nat stole them all. So we had a emergency brainstorming session in case it was a tie, and we came up with a word puzzle. Like, we're going to give them like 10 tiles that we had from the first challenge that would spell out a word. I think the word we could spell out was distrustful. And we were going to give it... Distrustful. Or maybe unfaithful, some word like that. And we were going to give it to them, and we gave it to Ash after the letters to Ash after the fact, and she solved it in about 5 seconds. So I think that had it been the last minute word puzzle, Ash still would have been in there over Mieta, and probably Evan. I think Evan would be pretty good at the word puzzle, but probably both. Mark, you're not high on this win at all? Boring as it may be?
No, it's right. Well, I'm a bit frustrated. Like, I feel like I called this outcome in the preseason draft, right? Like, I saw Evan, and Evan scared me because what scared me was I think I even said, like, his plan of sitting behind the number 1 and number 2 people.
Playing second.
I was like, I can see that working. And yes, it's a win. And part of me always wants to give credit to the person who wins the season being the best player. But I really don't think that was the case here. I feel like there was a lot of luck that coincided with a very passive strategy. If Evan was not on the dominating tribe and he was sitting in the shadows, he would have been picked off because he had no agency in the game. Yes, he sat behind the number 1, number 2 people, but he wasn't sitting up there with them directing anything. That's what frustrates me about his game. Did his plan get executed to precision and pay off? Yes. Is it a game that can be respected? That I question.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if we need to
He played
disrespect.
this episode very well. I give him that. Like, this episode played out.
I think it deserves respect. It's not my favorite win or anything, but I think, like, I'm a Chris Underwood truther, just for what it's worth. I think the Chris Underwood did play.
I actually am as well.
Yeah,
and I argue with Josh about this ad nauseum. I think he deserved to win. Exile. I thought he played the season's twist, but I don't think this was that. Like, I just think that, like, my frustration, or it doesn't just come from Evan, to be clear. I'm frustrated at the Mars situation because I was a big advocate for, like, respect the 6th placer. You need 3 big dogs going into the end game so someone can make it to the end. And everyone got too antsy around too early by getting rid of Danny at 6. Danny needed to be there at 5 to avoid this outcome.
Yeah. Or the Lentil King could have still been there. That's what I think Greg was alluding to in his interview. that if he had been in this group in the final 5, instead of, say, Evan, that would have provided some better protection for people like Ash and Mars. That's what Greg was hinting at in his interview. And I don't think he's wrong about that. He would have been a better
I don't think Evan was ever going, though. That's the thing is, and that's why it's hard, because yes, his strategy to sit in the background, to lay low, to not be a threat, that's a hard strategy to argue against, because it works. Because who is going to take Evan out over almost anybody else, really? So I think it's tough for us as ORCAs, because that is the antithesis of the way that we play. But it can be a very successful strategy, and I think Evan played it spectacularly, and Christelle to a point where there was no chance that they were ever going to get voted out. I don't think you could change any combination at any point really at merge, and both of them are still going to make it to the end.
I disagree with that. I think when Greg went, it was a choice between Greg and Evan, and Mietta had just made an alliance with Greg. She obviously flipped on him just as easily, so she wasn't that committed, but she obviously had a working relationship. Mars decided he didn't want Greg there. He preferred Evan, but he could have stayed with Greg. Ash could have stayed with Greg, and Greg would have provided more coverage for them than Evan. And that was
because Greg had an opinion. Greg was loud. Greg was very clear about what he wanted to do. Evan was not. Evan went, you know what? Whatever you need. Whatever you want to happen, we'll make that happen. They're not comparable. To me, they're not at all. And that Greg vote to me was never going to be Evan. Ever. It was always going to be somebody else.
But that's the mistake. For people like Ash and Mars, they should have been keeping people like Greg. Because Greg's a better choice than Danny. Danny's going to win. I'm not sure Greg is, right? People don't like Greg. People like Danny. Like, Greg is who they should have been taking with them, not Evan. I'm responding to your point that you said no one should have ever voted out Evan. And I'm saying it made sense for Mars and Ash to do it.
No one would have. Not that they shouldn't have. I love to take out those wild cards. That's my style of play. The people that I cannot rely on, that I don't know what they'll do, they're the ones I want to get rid of. Always. I didn't say they shouldn't get rid of them. I said they wouldn't. And none of them did.
They're good players. Ash is a good player. Mars is a good player. They should have thought about this. They really failed to calculate the numbers. I don't know why they thought having 2 threats in a group of 5. You said that everyone would just lay down on their sword for them. And I don't know why you guys thought that. Like, these people aren't that silly. Like, you don't want to be a 2-5 where there's 2 threats and 3 goats.
I think at the start, though, pre-season, we said that eventually the big power players would be outnumbered by the more passive players. I think we said that. And that's exactly what happened, because there weren't power players eventually get threatened. They will always take out the bigger players, and you have to keep some of them around, and they didn't keep them. And we said at the Danny vote, they should have kept her around. But so I don't think we said that, this outcome wouldn't happen. I think we said it would. And I think there were moments across the board that we said if a single vote would have changed this entire outcome. The Danny vote was critical.
I don't want to talk too much about hypotheticals and what if. I want to analyze the game plans of the people that we had in the cast, right? And I really want to discuss Evan's logic of the big moves for big moves. I don't like people that make big moves for the sake of it. As someone who didn't make a move at all in the game until the very obvious move of voting out Ash because Ash will win, what is the game? What game have you played? You let everyone else play the game and you slipped in the last second and you happened to be sitting next to someone who played even less of a game than you did. I just feel like it's a bit of a false straw man when you're saying that, well, I didn't do the silly thing of making moves to get me voted out. But what did you do? You allowed the dice to roll, and you waited for the dice to roll before calling the numbers on the 2 dice that landed in front of you.
And Evan's a Survivor fan, and so that's what confuses me. As Survivor fans, we love the strategy where you take the risks. So I actually want to listen to Evan and my question to him is going to be, who are your who do you idolize in the Survivor world? Who are your players that you look at and go, that's the game I wanted to play? Because clearly he and I as fans are quite different fans.
Shock story, I'm also a Gabler truther, and I sort of agree that maybe Evan should have done at least something at some point, and then if he had a move, like his move was I didn't play my safety without power, and that apparently is why half the jury voted for him. But that was his move, and I think if he had something a bit more, like if he'd been active in one of the votes, at least he would have had that. Josh has a hot take, so we'll put up with his lagginess for one hot take. Josh, there you go. Shirt's off now, I see.
Yeah, a bit humid. Yeah, my hot take is, don't want to take it like not in a mean way, not the mean orca pod, but I genuinely think, looking back at all the players of this season, I genuinely think that all of them, except I wasn't hot on Aaron's game, but I genuinely think all of them were better players than the eventual winner. Like literally, Xavier showed more potential. Like Hannah was bringing it. Like Shelley was had so much potential. Chris, I think, was iconic. Like genuinely, they all had more potential, and you could see more legs in the game. If you run 100 games of Survivor, they'll do better most of the time probably. But yeah, I genuinely think almost everybody was a better player than the winner. I don't know. I mean, that is kind of going with hypotheticals. But yeah,
dude,
honestly, I do.
Super mean orca. You're all relaxed there, and we're trying to be nice, dude. He's lagged out. The internet has said, "Stop talking, Josh. This is too harsh."
So
we'll bring you back next time.
Yeah, hot take.
Thank you. We'll bring you back. We can put up the lag for his spicy test. I think that's a bit harsh. I don't think that's true. I think Evan.
I agree with you, CK. Yeah. CK, believe it or not, I'm also a Gabler truther, and I also disagree with the hot take. I think Ala Gabler executed the rise and falling threat level. I didn't see the rise and Evan threat level, and I get it. It worked. It worked with the. But it was so much luck. Even the fact that it was a 2-person finale and he went in so well insulated, none of these things were orchestrated, manipulated, or by design. He simply was well positioned without having to do much to earn that position. And that's what's frustrating. It doesn't feel like an earned win. But I disagree with Dr.
But what it comes down to, and I mean, this is the point you always have to accept, is that the person who wins Survivor is the person who deserves to win Survivor, because it meant they did all of the 3 things. They outwitted, outplayed, outlasted. For better or worse, he made it to that final 2. Ash couldn't do it. Mars couldn't do it. Danny couldn't do it. Jules couldn't do it. I mean, all the people that we were, the Orca kind of, style of play couldn't do that. So he beat them on that. Whether we agree with how he got there to do it, he still did it. And the jury voted for him. That is a winner of Survivor.
Why do we all sound like we're in support? We all sound like we're in support of Evan.
There or not.
I hate
anyone in agreement? We're all in agreement. Evan's win is a good win. But yeah, we seem to be arguing with each other about it. All right. I'm going to take a step from the Evan argument. Mietta's backstage. We're going to bring her in. We'll talk to her a bit about the first part of the episode and the part she was there for, and then we can continue on with our argument, which appears to be that we all agree that Evan was a serviceable winner who played a strong game for the sort of game he wanted to play. Right, so interviews time. Let's bring her in. Absolute challenge queen, domination in the challenges, always safe, petrified if she wasn't. But she learned to conquer that fear throughout the game. Let's welcome Mietta. Welcome.
Hello.
This is so exciting.
I've got a big question for you, Mietta.
Watched you, and now you're right here. It's fantastic.
Loz is fangirling.
I am a little, yeah. This is cool.
If you played another game like right now, would you play it a lot differently? Have you learned?
Absolutely.
No, this is who I am. This is how I play.
No. I had no idea what was happening at any point. So I would definitely do lots of things differently.
You'd be the first one. What's the first thing you would do differently? You walk into the game, first thing you do different.
actually make an alliance with someone and not just roll around flapping about like a headless chalk.
I don't think you did that. I mean, I think you were well enough insulated for long enough that at the point where you really needed to start making an alliance, I think you were doing that. So in this game, I actually don't hold that against you. You were in the right place, in the right time, on the right tribe that made it possible to not have to have that alliance. So
Yeah, I think so.
Well, let's talk about the alliance you made with dear old Greg, right before he got voted out, for which you voted for him. That seemed like a genuine conversation that you were having with Greg, that you had some sort of social connection, that you both mutually saw other people as threats. I think Evan was the discussion point. And you know, that seemed genuine to me in the video, and I think you were very genuine about everything that you did on the game. And then you immediately were just happy to vote for him. Like, do you recall that happening? Do you have a mindset of what?
I definitely wanted to get rid of Evan at that vote. I can't remember if that was actually in the edit or not, but I was like, Greg is so straightforward down the line. I know exactly what he wants to do.
You said that. That was in
and Evan, I was just like, I don't know what he's about, and like he seemed just to be a bit sus. But yeah, I think I just didn't want to stick my neck out when everyone else seemed to want to go Greg. I was like, oh, okay.
I feel like you had a lot of genuine conversations with people, and you were fully on board with like teaming up with Ash and Mars. It's just that no one else was on board with this, like with the things they were pitching you. So you're like, I like this, and they give it to you, but then no one liked what they actually gave to you, so it just didn't happen.
Yeah.
Do you think if you play it again, and this isn't necessarily a guaranteed answer, in that scenario where you want Evan to go, would you push for it? That's the hardest thing, I think, in Survivor. It's not me, but I don't like the name that's going because it doesn't suit my game the best that they're going. Do I sit here and just let them go, or do I push for them to stay at risk of my own position? That's, I think, the hardest decision to make at any point in the game. Do you think that in a different world you would push your opinion there, or do you think being somewhat passive on those calls is still worthwhile?
I feel like I would push a bit more, maybe like obviously to a certain extent. If everyone is still saying no and like really stubborn, I would fold probably, but would push back more than I did.
And I have a question in relation to, I guess, as we watched, you were incredibly paranoid about your position in the game. And, you know, I get it. It's easy to feel, as you know, especially when you're a stronger woman who's doing well in challenges, that you're an obvious threat. And every single vote, I mean, you were protected from many of them, but you were still so worried that if you hadn't had that protection, they would have taken you out. Watching it back now and having seen how it played out, do you think the paranoia was justified? Do you think it was, you know, overthinking maybe a little bit? And would you change the way you sort of were voting, knowing that you were actually safe? You were pretty safe for a good chunk of them.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I just didn't understand what the whole shtick of Survivor is, right? So to me, I was like, well, challenges is the clear thing that people can see that you are good at, and so that therefore makes you a threat, where like obviously watching it back, that is 3% of what it actually is. So yeah, absolutely did not need to be as concerned as I was, but I'm a bit of a control freak, so didn't help.
Could you see yourself like aligning with different personalities on a second time around? Like it seemed like you were pretty keen to go with the more outgoing people and you weren't threatened by them. Whereas you seemed a bit more aversive of like the Evans and things like that. So if you played again, like, do you think you'd have similar personalities you'd cling to, or is there like red flags you noticed that you didn't see before?
Yeah, no, I think I would probably still stick to like the more outgoing people who are, I guess, more comfortable socially and like more outgoing. Yeah, I think you just can't trust the quiet ones.
I saw that for you, and I was like rooting for you really early on. So I was like, I see that.
Was
Can
there
I
a
ask
turning
you-
point? Sorry.
There you go, Loz. You go.
No, I was just going to say, was there a moment now looking back where you think you could have shifted the course a little bit in your favour, and had it gotten down, whether it was a Mars vote or the Danny vote, or was there a moment now you go, wow, that would have been, I could have changed the tides?
I feel like I probably could have changed it at a lot of different points. I guess I didn't like having that safety for so many of the votes. I probably had more power and influence than I thought I did. But yeah, I guess like not one particular moment in like on its own, but yeah, probably lots of different times.
I just want to flag a couple of comments here. This one, because it took slightly about myself. Isabella from Melbourne says, "You're a boss, babe," to being at it. And she's a boss, Isabella. Isabella, for those that don't know, was able to get one of the Survivor AU hidden David Jeanette buffs with the 500 wing wangs. So well done to Isabella for winning the Melbourne buff. I missed out on the Adelaide buff by about 2 minutes, which was very sad. I could have been wearing it right now. Anyway, enough about me. And then Greg has mentioned this, and I'm really glad Greg has mentioned this. Mietta's coming back for Game Changers after trying to trade her idol. We discussed on this show what a bold strategy this was. You were reinventing Survivor strategy. Did you look back in that and think, wow, I was trying to trade my expiring idol for another advantage, and obviously at the time you were just doing that. But did you, watching that back, maybe having watched a bit more Survivor, realize, wow, that was quite innovative?
No, only because people told me. I was just like, well, I think, because I can't remember, I must have had immunity from the challenge, or I was likely to get it, or I can't remember.
You did, and you would have been able to use the idol in the next one, but you, I guess, were backing either yourself to win or the numbers that you didn't need an idol on the next one, which you probably...
Yeah, I feel like maybe I felt safe. And I guess like not having watched Survivor, like I didn't know what advantages there could be. And I didn't really feel like it was risky telling them, because I was like, well, it's going to be gone next round anyway. So kind of nothing goes.
But there was another layer of strategy on that, because you basically let them know that you had the idol, and therefore, even though there wasn't a deal, no one's going to target you anyway, because they know you've got the idol. So you're sort of saving yourself in a lot of ways. The other question I have for you is, now, when we did the casting, and Mietta was a friend of Mars, and Mars, as in Canberra winner Mars, not Mars who she was playing with, a friend of Mars who Mars recommended. But Mars did not tell us how fit and strong Mietta was. So I don't think I put her on the right cast. I was trying to balance the casts. Did you know you were this fit and strong and capable? Did you think that you would just beast mode these challenges?
Absolutely not. My partner heard, I can't remember who, someone referred to me as an elite athlete or an endurance athlete or something, and we both cackled, because I just am like, I think I'm just very stubborn. I don't actually know that I'm any better at anything than anyone. It's just my stubbornness. I refuse to quit, really.
I was going to ask, you had a lot of very strong performances, let's say elite performances. Which one of those elite performances are you most proud of?
Probably it was the merge challenge, like the standing on the balls. And I definitely think I had a bit of an advantage there, that my ropes were up really high. So I was kind of like stretched, where Mars had like a lot more kind of give in his ropes. But yeah, I mean, it's a little bit confronting watching it back. I'm like a dead person just hanging there, like no expression whatsoever. Just like gone. I've just disappeared.
You look like in the zone. Mars is over there flinging around, and you're just in the zone.
Yeah. I'm like, I feel like I stood there for 6 hours.
Yeah, that's what it looked like. It was amazing.
Yeah.
It was absolutely amazing. I was there in the real life. It was more amazing in real life than it was in the video, I tell you. It was incredible.
I have a question about, so had you survived the vote that they took you out and they took Ash out instead? So Evan has won immunity, they vote, and instead of taking you out, they take Ash out. And then it's the final three of you, Evan, and KK. What do you think the outcome potentially is? And if then you can make it to that final two, how does the jury see it? Do you think you have that win?
Oh, that's hard. I don't know. I think it probably depends on how well I can sell myself, which is probably not very well. But
I think you undersell yourself. Your confessionals were, as you got like into the game, I think your confessionals were very descriptive and good at explaining. So I think you could do it.
Yeah, I think I definitely once I kind of worked out what was actually happening a little bit more. Yeah, I guess I feel like I played like socially kind of a similar game to Evan, obviously like maybe a bit more outgoing. But yeah, I think it's possible if I could talk myself up that I would beat him. And I think I could have talked myself up more than Christelle too.
Yeah, I agree.
I think
you would be final two against Evan and KK. So
would you have taken? I think that you would have owned your own game better than KK did. I think if KK had owned her own game a bit better, she might have done better. I think that you wouldn't have even thought to even pretend you'd done anything else than you had. So you would have absolutely just owned everything you did. It would have been whether you could think on when people give you a tricky question like what moves did you pull? Like you could say I was part of the plan to steal the immunity idol out of Mars, under Mars's nose. I took Mars away so that Ash could get it. I had to deal with Ash, she wasn't going to give it to you.
You could have done that. She said not this episode, the one before, you were saying that, Aaron and Greg would be surprised that you had been a significant part of voting them out. So I think you recognized the moves that you made and you did make moves. Yeah.
The stuff you could have said. If you, I don't know if you would have known to say it because you've not watched them before. But if you'd known, I think you would have had the right things to say to give them the answers they were looking for. So I want to do some hypotheticals. Okay, so you win the ball in the ring immunity. Are you going to vote with Evan for Ash, or are you going to vote with Ash and KK for Evan?
Oh, absolutely Ash. I wanted to get rid of Ash halfway through the game.
Okay, so we're going to the word puzzle, which based on how quickly Ash solved it when we gave it to her after the game, she's going to win it. And then I'm pretty sure you'd probably win the final immunity anyway. And so it probably would have been losing that ball challenge, I think, is a $500 loss potentially for you. And Melbourne Survivor could have had its dream. Liz has a dream of finally having a female winner of Melbourne Survivor, which has never been achieved. And it's Liz's great sadness. And so it could have been there. Any final questions from you guys, Loz and Mark?
What made you decide to wear a Camp Cope shirt to Melbourne Survivor?
I think because we were told to bring blue and pink, and I think it was maybe the only blue shirt that I owned. But I do love it.
Would that have been enough to make an alliance with you if someone flopped it?
Absolutely, yeah.
Oh my god, you and I would have gone all the way to the end. I'm obsessed with you.
Think about you could be passing on the strategy. She's going to be winning the challenges. What a combination you could have been, you two.
Oh, dynamic duo, misconnections. I'm obsessed.
Loz, final question.
Ma asks, I'm just noting, Ma has just asked, would you play again?
Yeah, I think so. The right circumstance, get me at the right time.
When she's not ready to leave.
I mean, if they ask, how do you say no?
Yeah, I think that's probably it.
Let's bring in Barley Josh for one hot little question. That's the wrong thing. Okay. Barley Josh, you get one little question. What you got?
Yeah, so I know you were immune like most of the time, but was there, so let's say if you pre-merge, if you went to tribal pre-merge, what is like a move you would have liked to have made in the moment? Because yeah, you kind of just was sitting pretty a lot of the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Honestly, I don't know. It like as I say, like it just wasn't. We weren't tested at all. Yeah, I have no idea. I can't even remember who was in there pre-merge.
It would have been a question of whether maybe had your pre-merge post-swap group gone to tribal, would you have voted with, say, an Aaron and Danny and Jules to vote out Greg at that point in the game,
Yeah.
or were you staying pretty solid to the original Tortugas at that point?
Oh, I think at that point I was kind of happy to go whichever way I felt like was safest, and I would have been very happy to vote with Danny and Jules. Yeah, it just felt at the time like that wasn't as strong, and I guess that they were so close. It felt like I would have been on the outer of that group, where in the like original Tortuga group that was still there, I felt like very much a solid member of that group.
I think that's right. Everyone was very afraid of this Danny and Jules pair. Well, thank you, Josh, for your Bali take. And thank you, Mieta, for coming on and being a great part of this season. Absolute challenge, domination. And, you know, you can cast 16 Survivor obsessed, Survivor nerds, and that's not what Survivor's about. Survivor games need people that are obsessed with the game and know the game, and it needs people that don't know the game because they come up with innovative things like trying to trade expiring idols. So you absolutely brought that component of the game, and it's always fantastic to see that component. I think you were much beloved and much enjoyed.
That was great. I had a great time.
Thanks, Mieta. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
So it's good to get that feedback about what would have happened and what have you. Now, I've got a special shout out that I would like to make at this point of the episode as we run through the moments up to Ash's Tribal Council. What did you think of the fact that we got a rites of passage? First time ever
I
in
loved
Australian
it.
LRG.
Yeah, no, I
Except
think
it
it
was
was
too early.
good. It gave us like a nice little segment. Considering like, you know, I feel like we kind of predicted the win from Evan as soon as Ash departed the game. So it gave us something to like consider that's not just like rehashing like, yeah, the same cycle. So I thought it was fun.
So there's a little backstory to this. It was very last minute organized. I thought it could be, yes, this was my idea. I thought it would be a great idea because they were starting up at the top of Uncharted waters, and you could see from there the beach where I drove Liz in on the jet ski and the game began. And we went through Uncharted waters, through where they did the challenges, down the path to the beach where they did beach challenges, and then it was up a different path to that fantastic location where they did the final challenge. So it really worked as the old traditional pathway. And Tara very quickly, once we had this idea, made these little name tags. We had one torch and just like kept moving the torch and kept putting a different name tag on it. And look, Ma was not a fan of this idea. Ma was very focused on the schedule. And I'm like, and I've got another story to tell. The challenge isn't even ready, Ma. Brady is faffing around with this challenge at no end. We've got plenty of time. They're literally doing nothing. There's no strats to go. Let's just do it. And Ma was like, there won't be enough time to put it in the episode, but if you want to go and do it, CK, you go and do it. And I'm like, well, we're doing it. So off Tara and Matt C and I ran to make this rites of passage, mainly because I thought it's old school and awesome, but also because I wanted to make Ash have to say nice shit about all these people in front of KK and Evan, just to top on all the other nice shit she's been having to fake for like half the game in terms of it, right? And I'm like, and she didn't know half these people, right? It's like, it was a tough sell, and I thought it was hilarious. But there was always a question of whether it was going to make the edit. Like, Ma never said to me it would make the edit. Whether it was ever going to make it, I didn't know until I got to the point of the episode. I'm like, is my freaking rites of passage making this edit or not? And it made it. So thank you, Ma, for putting it in. I think it's cool. I miss it in Real Survivor, and I know you're an old schooler, Loz, so you'd love it. And so thank you, Ma, and Tara and Matt C for helping me put it together. And for Ma for putting it in the edit. Thank you. I love that little moment of the three of them with the arms around the back looking at the ocean. I made them do that. I made them. This is TV gold. Anyway, up they go up to the challenge. Also, right after this happened, I told Tara and Matt C what a cute couple that I thought they were, and I didn't know they'd broken up. So that was like super awkward. So we go up to the final travel. And
wait, let's just replay that. You told Matt C and Tara what a cute couple they were.
Yeah. But I didn't know they'd broken up. So
do you have a penultimate subscription to Behind the Times? Is it just recurring?
It was 3 years ago. I think it was a fairly recent event. I don't know. I don't live in Melbourne. I'm not getting all the goss. Okay, so that challenge, Chloe and her then boyfriend, now husband, John, with Brady, spent like the entire day building those three things that the balls were going to run down. And getting all of the rubber bands and whatever, so it was all even and fair. Like, they spent so long on this. And Max said to Brady, it's a great idea and it's a great final challenge, but it's not worth it. Like, it's not going to go long enough. And Brady's like, no, it will be good. Okay, here's the little secret behind the scenes tip. The challenge you saw was not the actual challenge. The actual challenge was literally over in 5 seconds. KK and Ash basically both immediately dropped their first ball or second ball. And Evan just won. And we're like, okay, well, that's the worst TV moment I've ever seen. We'll just redo it and make sure Evan wins. We're not going to, and that Ash came second, which is what did happen. And I do think KK somehow broke the rules because that's what she was talking about in her thing. I can't remember how, but we redid it because I'm like,
no, she said she didn't understand the rules.
I don't know I can't recall what she did.
She said she didn't understand it and she didn't.
I think she literally dropped her ball and didn't go and pick it up and it just like went off the edge. So we had to redo the challenge and make it a little bit more exciting. But that might inform some of the confessionals that were having it. Here's Brady Mitchell. All day, he says, all day he built that challenge. And it was literally over in 10 seconds. And so we had to redo one. Obviously, with retaining.
I think it was a great challenge. I think that's a difficult challenge. There's a lot of thinking that goes into it. And the way, as a player, you have to plan out the dropping of the ball, the catching, the timing of the second, timing of the third. I mean, we've seen them I'm rewatching the 20s and the 30s at the moment, and they love those kind of challenges are just a staple, but you also have to kind of pick your players a little bit, and to me it's just too difficult a challenge and too complicated for that final challenge. I just think it needed to be something really just maybe just a simple endurance or
no. Look, as Ma would say, the schedule was secretly really cute. It was so quick. The schedule cannot handle an endurance challenge
behind
at the final.
Schedule. It's getting dark. You've already, I totally have been there and we've done it. Yeah. But I don't know. Something about it. I looked at it and went, oh my God, Ash and KK are dead.
It's the only moment rigged.
That made it felt rigged.
Poor Brady. It was such a brutal moment.
I feel you. It was a great challenge.
And it was in that great spot. The view from there was amazing. Anyway, so we go to the strat chat, and this is actually a funny moment. This is legitimately how it happened in the real time. Where I'm downstairs, like the downstairs bit with KK, while Ash and Evan are like up there for like 30 minutes. I don't know. Like, I don't know what Ash is trying to sell him. I do now. I've seen the episode, but I don't know what Ash is trying to sell him about this. But it's going on forever.
Everything.
Yeah. So then Ash comes to get down and swaps, and then KK goes up. And this is literally like the first chance I've had to speak to Ash for like most of the day. She's like, I'm so tired of pretending to be super nice. I'm like, you're so good. It's like, we're loving this game. It's insane. And then like KK immediately just comes back. Like she's literally gone for 10 seconds. And Ash is like, what the fuck? What the fuck? I just spoke to Evan for 30 minutes. What did KK say? And like, she's like, I just said, you do you, boo. And I'm like, I love it. And that's why it's the episode title. Anyway, then poor old Ash goes. And I don't think anyone... You've been saying for a long time, Loz, you thought KK... well, I guess she couldn't... We'll never know. But she talked about that, you know, if she'd won the immunity, she might have voted out Ash. Do you think she would have done that or not? KK may not make it tonight, so we might not be able to ask her.
I think KK loved that it wasn't in her hands. I think she really would have struggled with that decision had she won the challenge and had to make that call. And I do think Ash could have, I think Ash's influence would have been enough to get her to vote Evan out to keep Ash. I think KK was that secret weapon that Ash had been kind of nurturing the whole game. And I mean, KK might say different, but I do think Evan didn't really, there was no pressure put, like Evan didn't put any pressure on KK at all. Whereas Ash had that relationship, she built on it. I see if there had been a potential to have a KK win, it could have been a KK Ash finale. Because I don't think KK minded. Like her tribal council performance said that she didn't really mind. Her You Do You Boo with Evan said she didn't really mind if she made it. I could see a KK Ash.
She did say to me that she was pretty sure everyone was going to take her, so she didn't really need to sell him. But so, you know, why bother giving him the hardcore press? But I think you're spot on about that, Loz. And honestly, if KK had won that immunity and Ash had given KK the 30-minute hardcore press about,
I think she'd go.
There's no way KK take it. KK would just take it. There's no way. She's like maybe tossing up the idea, but if she spends 30 minutes with Ash talking about their journey and whatever, there's no way KK's not bringing her along and then hugging her like Colby hugged Tina when Tina won the season. Like it would have been that sort of situation. So happier for her than herself. So I think you're right. All Ash needed was one of them.
And if Evan hadn't won the immunity and Mietta had, and it had been a Mietta, Ash, KK, I think Ash potentially had that influence to convince either of them. Yeah, if there was a final three and then, you know, Mietta or KK had won, I think Ash had enough influence to potentially convince them either way.
I think the problem with Evan
throw the spanner in the works, winning those two immunities.
Yeah, I think the problem is Evan has the survivor knowledge to know that Ash is going to beat him. And the other two don't necessarily have that knowledge. And they also don't care as much as a survivor fan does about winning.
Absolutely. But I think that was part of Ash's strategy, was to keep people along who didn't have the knowledge that she had, because it made them easier to manipulate.
Do you have any comments on that broader segment before we bring in Ash, Mark?
No, I think I hate hypotheticals and I love Ash. So let's bring her in.
Okay. No doubt, in the real time and on the replay, the absolute star of the season. We could not believe how effective of a game Ash was playing. You know, we're rolling into the merge and everybody thinks Ash is her number one. We're tearing our hair out as production because it's lining up to be a Redemption Island style season. But ultimately, it ended up being, which is fine because I'm a Boston Rob truther and I love watching him steamroll all those people. So I could have enjoyed watching Ash steamroll those people. Unfortunately, it was kind of like if it was Redemption Island, but the football guy ended up winning the end and Boston Rob went out at fourth. That's what sort of happened. What was that? Grant. If Grant ended up winning, that's
no, Grant would never have won. Never. Boston Rob.
I'm just saying, Boston. But Boston Rob gets voted out, like Ash. I'm just saying, if that's sort of what we ended up with. But the cult, the performance
Undercover
was so
cult
amazing.
leader. Loved it.
And
Should have been the title of the episode.
I know she played before, but lots of people play twice, and you're generally better your second time. But this was like, and she wasn't bad in Canberra, but this was, and she obviously did well. She came fifth, but this was like an infinitely just better game all round than what she played in Canberra. And it was, such an evolution of her as a Survivor player that it was incredible in the real time. It was incredible to see. You hear her sultry tones every single Orca pod with the lovely intro song that she sings. And now she's shaking her head backstage. I said, if you want to record a better one, you're always free to. But I love it nonetheless. And how she is here to bring her sultry tones to the interview. The, I think, undisputed star of Uncharted Waters. Let's bring her in.
Hi.
Hello, welcome.
Hi.
Everyone's
Hello.
just starstruck, Ash.
Hitting bricks podcast. So yeah, very starstruck myself.
Questions?
Four looks good on you.
Come on, questions, people. This is dead air. Come on, Loz, Mark. What do you want to say to the Queen?
Oh no, I've got so much. Oh my god! I mean, I from the moment we saw the cast list and from preseason. I mean, Danny's my girl, but you're my other girl, and I've said it every episode, and I will continue to say it. I think you played a masterful game. I think absolutely a outstanding across LRGs across Australia. I don't think many people compared to the game that you played, and I think it was nuanced, and I think it was layered, and I think that there were so many elements that people who know you in real life watching the edit would have no idea just how you developed this character in the game. And it was almost perfect. It was almost perfect. And I truly think, and I know Mark hates hypotheticals, which is why I talk about them all the time. I think had the Evan immunity not happened, I think you had the game locked in. I really do. And win or without a win, it was the kind of game that I think we'll keep talking about for the history of Australian LRGs. So I'm just wanted to fangirl.
Thank you. It's all born from my skills were born from trauma. So thankfully they come in handy in Survivor, which is very helpful. Very helpful.
I think it's hard to ask you questions because like you really played such a strong game, and it's kind of funny because like as much as we've like been mad at the people, we've been mad at your cult, but we've stand the cult leader. So in one way, you've made us a part of your journey, while also making us like want to take the poison with your followers. It's so fucked. You're fucked, but I love it.
I've always dreamed of being a cult leader, and I thought that playing for a second time, it would be fun to test the theory on how I could work my magic. And I think over time, obviously it's been 3 years since we've played, and watching it back was a lot. Oh my God, it was a lot to watch myself back. But like, yeah, I think I now harness my powers more for good. But watching myself harness them for all that mastery was something else. I could be.
We were so here for it because that is exactly how we.
Have you found it confronting? Because I don't think, like, you can feel how you want to feel, of course, but I don't think you should be ashamed of something you did in a game. Like, it's a game. Like, it's always a game. You know, how you behave in real life is something else. But how you behave in a game of Survivor, like, you know, I was the biggest douchebag. Like, really, I just was. And, you know, I own that, and that's fine. And, you know, I don't have any regrets about that because I wouldn't be here if I'd just been, like, a boring player. But, like, you know, no regrets. It's just a game. Like, you know, Loz talks about herself in the game, that you know, the way she played and the person she is not the person she is in real life.
I think that like one of the things that I guess is really like something I was learning at that particular time in my life was like I'd just been diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, and so it was something that I was just coming to terms with and really like splitting between like who I am as a person and who I am as like a game player was so hard in that time period. So I think upon reflecting, like after the game, it was a lot to reflect on and to really like, you know, tap into. That was exhausting for 3 days. Like I was tired at the end of it, and it shows in the FTC. It was brutal. And I was salty because it was like 10 minutes between when I got voted out and when I had to cast. Well, it was a bit longer than 10 minutes, but it was probably 10 minutes between when we sat down to be on the jury. So I was still processing a lot of that. But yeah, I think watching it back, I can really like appreciate that I'm more nuanced than I give myself credit for. I'm layered and I'm quite like I definitely was a bit scared that I was gonna be like just this evil cult leader, and I had this idea of myself in my head that it was very, very like one-sided. So I'm glad that on screen I showed a bit more complexity, and I wasn't just some crazy chick out there running around comparing people to dogs and stuff. Thanks, JP.
I think
these experiences are so transformative.
You go, Mark.
We're both fighting each other. I think like these experiences are so transformative that like you put on this persona for a weekend, and when you play a game like this, that weekend is like a year of regular development. It just hits you so hard. And it's hard for you to realize like how much you grow from the crazy witch you were on screen versus the less crazy witch you are after the weekend, right?
100%. Like it's so interesting, and like my major is in psychology, so like I love Survivor because it overlaps so much with the psychology realm and like all the social norms and things, and like I think it's really interesting getting to see how much Survivor like reflects real life, and how yes, the person you show up in the game as might be like this character, but it's also a part of who you are, and like to ignore that would be silly, I think. So I definitely think getting out of the game and also watching it back has given me a lot to reflect on, because it's like I can tap into all of these different skills when I want to. I can utilize them, and now I'm utilizing them a bit differently. But yeah, it's definitely interesting to watch back. A lot to watch back.
And I think that you were serving in the confessionals, but that's good confessionals. That's just being entertaining. And I know we say what was great about your game was your ability to chameleon with each person and give them the sort of person they were looking for in a relationship, in an ally. But I don't think, any of that, as far as it goes from a game, was super disingenuous. Like, I don't think that if you would meet KK in real life, you would be anything but like super nice to her, right? And you're generally more default, a bit snarky, a bit sarcastic, and you might, throw a bit more shit, and that's not really what KK is about, so you wouldn't do it with her. But I think you wouldn't do it with her in real life either, because it's just not who the sort of person she is. You're just a person with layers, and you applied all your layers to the different relationships in the game. And everyone has layers. It's just your ability to do it and to read what other people want from you. And if you've got then you bring out the right layer for that person if you're prepared to do that and not just be like authentically one part of yourself. And like my mistake, and I think Loz's mistake, and I think probably Mark's mistake in our games is we decided just to be one part of ourselves and be that part big and not worry about the other bits. And like we had people that loved it. Like Max just adored the person that I brought to the show. Loz had like people that adored, like Eden adored her. Who adored you?
Eden voted me out.
Haley adored you. Anyway, everyone got adored, but not by everybody. So you just played a smarter game. And I think this is probably the big distinction between your Canberra game, because I think in the Canberra game, you were just the authentic you that is that one person, not that layered person, that sort of snarky big character?
Well, in my Canberra game, Hopper kind of like sold me out immediately. So I couldn't play he told everyone that I was the ditzy like character. So I can't play the ditzy character in that scenario. Whereas I think in this game, I got I wouldn't say got the jump on people, but like I definitely chatted to people like Mars, who knew me, and Aaron, who like knew me from outside of the game, and just wanted to like make sure we were good, and we were not going to like go around telling everyone like my little secrets and what I'm up to and, you know, what I'm doing. I wanted to be on the same page as them more so they wouldn't throw us later.
That was actually very true with Adam in particular. Now, you weren't, you were very, you know, Adam probably the best on the cast, and that was one of the things you were struggling with a little bit earlier in the game, because you weren't, as we said, scheduled to play. You were like a last minute fill-in, and we're talking like I think the morning of the game.
I was,
and we didn't really have it
at like 9 o'clock. By the way, you weren't out on the Matt Tara breakup. It literally happened the Thursday night before the game. I don't know what psychotic thoughts they were having to do that before a full Survivor weekend, but hey, props to them.
The weekend.
And then I got half an hour later being like, hey, by the way, can you play? And I was like, oh, cool, great. So why not? Let's do it.
Yeah. But I think you did have some trouble with Adam. It was this bit like, I know Adam, so I could work with him, but Adam knows me, and I'm a bit worried about what Adam might tell other people, or that he would be, you know, worried about me. Was that was it difficult to interact with these relationships of people that knew you and knew your capabilities and knew the sort of game that you might play?
It was terrifying to interact with them because, like, I think people's perception is their reality. That's the obvious. I think so. People could have a perception of me that is so far from how I want to show up in this game, and to, you know, catch them and try and like change that perception before it can spread is definitely part of like the strat. Because if Mars and Aaron and, you know, Jules even, who had seen me play, and especially Adam, because Adam had played with me in Morty Alec, and so that was my very first game that I'd ever played, my first LRG, and I played very similarly. I played a chameleon. I pretended I was a little country farm girl and snuck my way to the end, and then they got me out, I think, at like Final Four or something. So Adam had watched me do this before. He had a front row seat, and, you know, I'm sure he had many trust issues with me, as I did him. And so it was very much like he was probably the hardest person to both look in the eyes and like vote for, but also the hardest person to come into a tribe with and have to like navigate and play around, because I didn't know where we stood necessarily for a lot of that.
I think voting him out was a good move for you because it was more of a variable than you had enough followers. You didn't need someone who could potentially overthrow the cult.
Yeah, and I'm just very gave us the extra vote, and very grateful to our friend Greg. Sorry for voting you out.
Yeah.
Ma wants to know, were you surprised at how strongly Evan was coming for you at the end? You know, you had the 30 minutes with him, and I don't think you were sure that he was going to keep you, but I think you thought maybe you'd convinced him, but I don't think he was ever. I think that whole 30 minutes was fake. He was never going to change his vote.
Yeah, I was really shocked at how I under so much. Like, honestly, by day 3 I was so far gone. My character was dying. I was like losing my mask. I was also just like not seeing people clearly for the threats that they were, and I definitely think Evan was one of those people who just like, he had the survivor knowledge that I wasn't able to acknowledge and see, because all I saw was like, you know, moments where he'd need to step away and the moments he was doing his own thing, and I wouldn't see necessarily like the things going on in his head. He has a game behind the eyes, and so I definitely think I underestimated him, and while I was selling myself to him as I could and hoping and bullshitting my way through some journey that we went on at Tribal Council. But like, yeah, I did think that that he would keep me, and I had probably more hope than not. But yeah, he definitely had me fooled that I possibly had them both taking me to FTC, and I also overlooked that Mieta and I probably could have maybe done something at 4, and if I wasn't so dead tired, I don't know. I don't know what could have potentially gone on, but yeah, Evan was definitely an interesting player, and definitely played me to get to final 2 and take it out. So props to him.
Do you guys have any final questions for Ash?
Just in relation to that final vote, I guess I love, you know, a bit of a revenge vote, and the fact that your point was, I'm going to vote for Christelle because, you know, screw you, Evan, you're not going to get a 7-0 win.
I love that, actually.
I loved it. I'm so here for it. I'd love to do exactly the same thing. In hindsight, looking back now, where would you place your vote?
Can we just pause for 1 second? Yeah, so if we answer this, it was an amazing moment, and we're going to be doing a podcast series on the top 25 moments in Australian allergies at some point, and definitely that vote is one of my nominations. However, I was slightly disappointed because then we all know this. Ash came and told me after the game, I'm like, who voted for Christelle? And this is like 10, 15 minutes later. And she said, I did it. I'm like, oh, okay, you were closer. She's like, no, my voting confessional was this. And this is obviously what she told me, which was her revised version that she'd thought about over the next 15 minutes. And I'm like, the revised version was like, it was good, but the revised version was top tier. And she was like, Evan, Christelle, you don't deserve this vote, but Evan doesn't deserve a perfect game. And then putting the thing, because Evan would have had a perfect game if not for Ash's vote. Yeah. Like, not just 7-0, he doesn't have a vote the entire game. Yeah. It would be a pure Survivor perfect game. Unbelievable.
Yeah, no, and it wasn't a perfect game. That's why it's so beautiful. It needed to happen.
Yeah, walking into the jury though, I remember saying to them, they were all standing in a little circle. I had my moment. I walked over and they're like, all right, so like, hi, great to see you. Who do we vote? And I'm like, well, and obviously it wasn't like, who do we vote? As they were just like, what do you think of the game that these people have played? Who do we vote out of these two? And I was like, well, obviously Evan has played incredibly well to eventually vote me out at the end and now be sitting at the end having made that final decision. So I would vote for him. But then, yeah, when I listened to Final Tribal Council, and especially at the end when he whipped out the safety without power, it's like, yeah, he's definitely getting a lot of votes here. Like I was pretty convinced that he was going to win, and I would be beside myself if he didn't get a vote all game and then got a clean sweep from the jury. So as much as like, and also I love Christelle and her game was very socially good, and I do value a good social game. But yes, very much was bitter at that point. And it was probably, because I'd just been voted out. I'd barely even processed my vote out, and I suddenly had to pick a winner. I was just bitter as hell.
I love it. I'm a bitter juror, so
it's bitter and salty and amazing. And Evan, as we talked about at the start of this show, deserves the win. He won the game. He's the best player of the most deserving winner because he won the game. And I think he played the last round brilliantly, the finale brilliantly. But I don't think his game deserves a perfect game either. And I think that I like that you had the weird rule that he deserves to win, but he doesn't deserve a perfect game's of such a rare thing in Survivor, like to get that. And I think it was also nice I think you probably had a little bit in you that it would be nice for Christelle not to get swept 7-0.
Yeah.
I think she liked seeing that vote.
I don't think there's a more kind-hearted person and I have some queries about this sneaky bastard stuff and UCK, because I believe you might have mentioned the sneaky bastard thing. And
I did not. Did not.
You didn't?
I can tell. I don't know what. I think I confused her, to be perfectly frank. So, right before production, we're doing these interviews before the Final Tribal Council, and I'm sitting with Christelle, and she's a bit down. She's like, they don't like me. You know, I can't win this. I've done nothing. Like, I understand that's a thing. And I'm like, I don't think the jury's that hot on Evan, so I don't think you've got the game like lost. I think you just need to be honest and open about your journey. You're a really nice person. Nice people have won Survivor before. Like, it's happened. You don't know what's going to happen. Like when Russell Hantz lost, right? Everyone was surprised by that. And Natalie had more strategy than people give her credit for it, especially at the time. But she was just seen as the nice girl that wasn't Russell Hantz. And obviously Evan isn't Russell Hantz. But the point is, anyone can win a game, you never know. And I said this, and I said, you should just focus on your journey. You should focus on how you're afraid of water, yet you got out in the water. You got on top of that beam. You were petrified, but you did it. It's this personal journey for you. That's what you should focus on. And then she asked me, well, if I've done sneaky things, should I say that too? And I'm like, I don't know what she's done the whole game. I'm like, sure. Yeah, absolutely. If you've got sneaky things, you should talk about them. The jury will like that. And so she rolls in with this sneaky bastard comment, but didn't really have anything to back it up. I didn't ask her what the sneaky things were. She just asked me that. So I'm not to blame, but I think I might have confused her, maybe.
Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah, I just heard a rumor that you
I gave her the winning argument. It was about her journey and the water thing. Just go with that.
Also, I still have my my tag from back.
Yeah.
It's got Nutrigrain on the back, by the way. And I'm pretty sure it was box the crew ate, because you were so obsessed with your idea of getting it done. And because of the challenge being so short, I feel like they had to chuck that in for sure. If not for the idea.
I think if the challenge was longer, my rites of passage ain't making the edit. So again, another a win for me and another L for Brady. Sorry, bro, I finally defeated you. Any final words? Ash will be back hopefully on the tea party. You might need to mediate the fierce debate between the Lentil King and the Orcas, Danny and Jules. It's going to be out of control. Annabelle will be there too, but you know, those two those three have been having words. Yeah, mediate. They've been having words in the chat like all season. I think it's gonna blow up. It probably
I don't know how I hate that.
Well, you were at the tea party where Hoppo and Dom like got nasty to each other. So like, do you remember that one?
What am I? Just the awkward third wheel that's supposed to like mediate everyone? God help me. All right. Prepare. I'll get my notebook. No.
Thank you so much, Ash, for coming in the last minute, being a star of the season, and giving us such an incredible performance. You know, you were loved by all. Well done.
Thanks, Ash.
Having me.
So we've got Evan backstage. Christelle, I don't think will be making it. Christelle was scheduled to come, and she sent me a message earlier. Her sister or brother, one of them and their partner is having a baby, a third baby today. It was supposed to come in 2 weeks, but it's coming today. So the 3-year-old and the 5-year-old have been dropped off with Christelle to look after while the sister or sister-in-law, I'm not sure which, is having this baby. So
isn't it
Christelle
10:30? Shouldn't a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old be in bed?
I did say that, you know, you could probably jump on if you got them in bed, but she also said she's never had them overnight before. And I know she works in childcare, but I can tell you as someone who's got kids, there's a big difference in getting your kid to have a nap in the middle of the day versus getting them to go to sleep at night, particularly if they have napped during the day. So I don't know if she was necessarily in the skill set headspace to worry about her niece and nephews and also come on the show. but this is who she is. She cares about other people first and foremost. Let's talk about the final tribal council before we bring in our winner. This was edited a little bit. I remember Danny being way more savage. Like, she asked that question to Christelle, and Christelle gave an answer that Danny did not like. And then Danny kept asking, like, no, give me the examples. When did you do something? I think it was like that. I can't remember. And that's when Christelle almost started crying. So Ma did Danny a favor and not put that in the edit, though it might hurt her Orca win for for this episode. I don't know. I would have given her that, but we can see it. What other comments did you guys have on the final tribal jury?
I feel like I predicted that this would happen.
Hang on. Ma, touche. The whole season was edited correct and edited brilliantly, I must say. But yeah, you know what I mean. The bad bits were cut out.
I was hot on Evan performing in Final Tribal Council, right? I always knew that like he went in with a strong point of view and he would be able to sell his game well, right? So I thought he had a good tribal council performance. And I feel like he did a good job of warming the jury on his game that many people weren't warm on going into it. And I feel like he did what he needed to do.
What about some of the questions? Who do we think had the best question? Loz.
I mean, I think it was a tough one. I think it was a really tough final two to be a jury member on. And there wasn't a lot to me to kind of, I think people had an idea in their mind of Christelle's game. They had an idea in their mind of Evan's game. I don't know that either of their answers, even if, I actually think Christelle had a fantastic journey, but we didn't get to see it in the final tribal. I think Evan's answers and the way that he handled the jury was what you'd expect. And as a jury member, I think it was probably a little bit underwhelming and a little bit disappointing because you're kind of mad. You know, this is a final two that you're not invested in. You don't really feel like one or the other deserves it. You can really attack them with questions, but you're probably not going to get a lot out of either of them because they're both such kind of calm, middle of the road people. So, it wasn't a dynamic. And I know we try to steer away from, and even Real Survivor has steered away from the really confronting, aggressive final tribal councils, which I'm always sad about because, I love that stuff. But it's not very nice to people and people get upset and I get that. But was it a little bit of a, kind of tribal council? Yeah. I think the questions were the best you could come up with. I mean, what else were they going to say? I mean, I know Danny tried and Jules's opening speech was quite good, but Aaron didn't have much to say really. Who's Greg going to be mad at? Both Christelle and Evan did the same thing.
I liked Ash breaking character for Final Tribal Council and just being like, right, I don't need to do this anymore. I'm mean now. Like that was probably the highlight for me.
It was short though, it was like a snippet of it. And there was it was so much emotion and so much that comes down to two people who you can't really take it out on.
I don't want to be mean to Evan right now because he's about to come online, but like the needing a moment during Final Tribal Council, I feel like is a bit of an unforgivable sin. Like I think you need to be there, be present in the moment, and whatever comes at you, it's like Final Tribal Council is live, and if you were sitting next to anyone with a fire, they would capitalize on that moment of weakness, and the game is lost. So you are correct. That was something you didn't appreciate.
You're very correct about that, Mark. When I do interviews for people coming to want to work for me or at my firm, if I ask them one of the questions and they're like,
hang on, stop. I don't know.
Or can I come back to that later? I'm like, you can go back to another job later. Like this is a very competitive environment. You can only deliver a 10. Like if you deliver a 5, you're just not going to get there. And I think Evan played a very strong game because he got himself to a position where he didn't have to be absolutely elite at the Tribal Council. He could just provide a strong performance or a fairly good performance, and he was going to win. And that was part of his strategy, obviously, in going with Christelle.
Yeah,
you're right.
I know that he gets nervous. I know that's a personality trait. I know that's a thing in him. So I'm not trying to read that. But I think that his game and point of view was strong enough that he should have been able to stand behind that without breaking down. Because he didn't fall into this position. He built this position intentionally.
Yeah.
So I didn't like him buckling under that pressure when the point of view was there. And I feel like if it was I hate to use the word earned, but if there was a Mieta or an Ash or a Danny or a Jules in the game, I'm not saying that Danny or Jules win because of the jury. Imagine how they would treat that moment of weakness.
Yeah. Now, I wanted to say before we'll get him in, Ma, I want to talk about this. I'm glad Ma reminded me. Ma said how iconic that the camera stopped recording. Such LRG vibes. Ma, look, I love this too. Number one, I know how much you would have hated the fact that you don't have this footage. It's a key moment of the story, Final Tribal, that the camera that broke down was the one on KK, and Evan is the worst. Liz would have been fine. The jury would have been okay, but the 2 finalists is not ideal. But I love the little meta moment that she turned it into. So I don't know if you guys have watched every LRG, and I don't know everyone that watching us has, but in Melbourne Survivor Warrandyte, for those watching at home that haven't seen it all, there are 2 tribal councils in where there are no footage at all of the tribal council. And in fact, it's one where Calvin plays 2 idols incorrectly. That's a pretty big moment to not have footage, but they have the audio. So it's just done over this still shot of the tribe. And that's why it's Melbourne Survivor things. But the also meta thing is the first episode of Playing with Fire is called Just Survivor Things. And it's from a quote that Caitlin gives. And so the Just Melbourne Survivor Things is a Melbourne Survivor 2 and a Melbourne Survivor 3 reference in the finale of Melbourne Survivor 4. I'm probably one of the few people that got the meta reference there because, I win 12th all the time. But that was an incredible little moment, Mara, and I loved it. All right. So did you guys pick up on that meta moment? That hashtag? No. That's why it's 10-1 on 12th. Just by the way. Yes, it was a homage. 10-1. That's why. All right. So the winner. Now, I don't know how much Evan's tuned in for because he was at work and then he's come in for this last bit. Evan, you should know that we've been having a furious argument with each other while also all simultaneously agreeing that you played a very strong game in the end, that you did everything that you needed to do, that your game strategy was effective, it was considered, it was planned, and you executed it, particularly at the end. Loz thinks you needed a bit of luck to win the 4th immunity, the second to last immunity, and without that, you were in trouble. And, our struggle has always been that you are not an Orca, but the game strategy was super sound. So we love the win, but we're also struggling with the win at the same time. So take everything we say with the admiration of someone that we know we could never play the game you played. And it won, and so it is a valid, successful winning strategy. And that's all that really matters. So what really matters is being the Orca. But in terms of winning is that. So without further ado, let's bring in the winner. The winner.
Hey. Hello, good to be here. To answer your question, CK, I caught a little bit of Ash. So right off the bat, I'd like to say a big fuck you to Ash for not giving me the 7-0. I know she would take pleasure in this, but I've tried to say to myself that I'm not upset, but I am genuinely upset about it. So well done. It has upset me, Ash. You played it perfectly. Yeah.
You wanted the perfect game, did you?
Love it.
I mean, who doesn't, right?
That is Orca. That is energy. That is fire. That is passion.
Mark's where was this on the show? Where was this on the show?
Yes, I know.
Oh, yeah. I was pretty shy on the show. I'm not good in front of camera. I'm sure I don't need to tell this to you guys. You all saw it. I'm not the best at confessionals. I was shy about explaining things through, just thinking, oh, what are people going to say? But having watched the show and seeing these like super energetic confessionals from all these great players, you know, and we all know who they are, I wish I had been one of them. So I really regret that. And yeah, sorry for my poor confessionals.
They weren't poor.
I mean,
You're a storyteller.
Confessionals are the thing, are part of the thing that moves the story forward, but there are only one point of view. And I think the interesting part of your game was that your game moved without the need for the confessionals. We could see what you were doing, and you didn't need to necessarily explain it. And that's an interesting point of view from people, especially like us, who are we like to think we're strategic. We like to think that there's different angles and we need to explain. You didn't need to explain your game. Your game moved regardless. So.
Well, yeah, definitely. I think it was, I mean, you kind of saw what you got with me. I was I was a pretty boring player, that's for sure. It felt like things were moving along pretty consistently. It felt like, and I think you guys were pretty on point. I was tuning into the podcast, though not live. I think your predictions were super accurate basically every week. And from our point of view, it felt the same, I reckon. You could kind of see where the vote was going. So it felt like you didn't really need to do much because the vote was going to go where you wanted it to go. And well, I might have been wrong, but it kind of felt like it was good for the game I wanted to play.
What I said at the start of the episode is that I think the finale that you play here is spectacular. You set it up and you've got to walk a very fine line of things occurring, but everything that happens in the finale is what you want to happen in the way that you want it to occur. And you know that if you follow this path, you're going to win. You are sure about it and you're right. And I think that's expert play. Loz doesn't like this because you had to win the ring ball immunity, because if you didn't win that, you're probably going out. But I think other than that, you have it locked down. And I actually think my least favorite part about your final tribal is when you're asked to talk about a move, you don't talk about the fact that you switched your vote, your planned vote, to make it a 2-2 with Ash and Mieta to go 3-1 on Mieta once you heard it was a final 2. And we know this was your plan because you were talking about it in confessional beforehand. If you know it's a final 2, you're going to switch your vote because you're confident you can win an immunity against Christelle and Ash. I think that was one of the best moves you made. And so I'm disappointed when they asked for your best moves that's what you didn't say, because I thought that was just such a well thought out plan. You had all the eventualities covered and you knew what you were doing depending on, and you were considering it could be a 3 or a 2. Okay, I've got to make a call here. And you didn't have to make a call, you were told. But once you were told, you're like, boom, okay. And even in the voting, okay, this was going to be Ash, but I flipped it because I need to go against the easier challenge competitors. I thought that was an incredible move. In 3 days of game, exhausted, your mind is absolutely on point.
Yeah, I don't remember how I answered that question. I suppose when I was thinking
Aaron or Greg or
something. Okay. Oh, right. When I remember not thinking that as a move, because I suppose I was thinking more Orca related moves, something a bit more dramatic. So I suppose I could have said something like that. Though on the fatigue, I kind of want to mention what Mark said earlier about pausing halfway through Mieta's question. That was 100% fatigue. And yeah, I completely agree. I hate that moment. And I was so hoping that Ma would edit it out because I was so embarrassed by it. But it was literally just me trying to formulate my question and then just blanking halfway through because fatigue got to me, which played a very big part, especially during those later tribals.
Yeah, with that, like I think we understand the fatigue more than anyone, and throughout the season, I've commented on player fatigue as being like a really relevant part of the scramble. Like sometimes you just can't bring certain plans to light, not because you don't see them, but because you just don't have the energy to make these things happen, right? I think we saw that moment, and we've seen you shy away from conversations beforehand. So it kind of read to me as a continuation of, I guess, like overwhelmed with conflict rather than tiredness. So I'm sorry that that's how it came across.
Oh, no, not at all. And I think that's fair enough. Also, on that kind of Final Four, I think that I felt like, yeah, I completely agree that obviously I don't like the fact that you got to rely on winning a challenge to progress into the game. I had probably my biggest misread of the game. I mean, I made a ton of misreads and misjudgments, but I think my biggest one was actually thinking Mieta was aware of how strong Ash was. So when I went into that last challenge, I actually thought I was in the best position ever because I thought, well, it's either going to be like realistically, it's going to be Mieta or me to win. And we're both just going to vote off Ash.
You don't have a misread on this.
Sorry?
I'm going to interrupt you, Evan. You didn't have a misread. Yetta was on the show earlier, and she said she wanted to get Ash out like halfway through the merge.
Yeah.
If Mieta won in the bowl challenge, you're going into the challenge with Ash. Mieta would still stick with you in the
Yeah, right. Okay.
I don't think it was a misread. I think it was
you're right.
Just miscommunications and perhaps there did seem to be a disconnect perhaps between you and Mieta right back, we talked about it with Mieta actually to the Greg vote. And there did seem to be just that disconnect between you and her. Maybe you felt that. I don't know. What do you think that relationship was like with Mieta, and could it have influenced the game differently if you'd had a better
100%.
communication?
100%. I think that's when I reflect on how I played and the mistakes I made. That was probably, I suppose, that Final Four challenge was a continuation of the mistake of not spending more time with Mieta and kind of understanding her. It was, I think, difficult to read those newer players that weren't familiar with the game, that being Christelle and Mieta, because they don't know the usual conventions and how these games operate. And I suppose there was just so much going on. It was just one of those things I just didn't address until it was way too late, because a conversation on the way to that final challenge is just way too late for me. And I didn't get a good read on if she actually was going to take me or not. So, yeah.
I think it's when you're playing with people who play the game at a slower pace, you have to meet them at their level. You can't bring them up to your speed. And I think that's where some of the frustration came for me with you on this season, where there are players like Jules and Danny who you didn't need to play with them, and you chose not to. And I understand not throwing away your game just for the sake of a bit of fun, but it would have been a lot more fun seeing you navigate a faster paced environment, which didn't ultimately come about because of players like you not taking those opportunities to, I don't want to say shape things up, but like you were playing from a seat of power and there was relative safety. You could have taken a risk while not being the person to have the domino fall on you at the same time. So let's just what do you say to that? Like, would you have done anything differently to go to the end game with a little bit more control, or do you kind of own the choices you made and not taking up those offers?
Definitely so many what ifs, and it's so fun to discuss with the cast and crew and even you guys now what would have happened if you had made more exciting moves. There's definitely a part of me that regrets not doing that. I look back and watch the season and I see what Ash and Mars are doing, and they just look like they're having the best time ever. And I wish, getting to the end, doing that, like you're the king at that point, right? It's so much fun. I suppose I don't think I would have changed anything, especially first time round. Just to, I suppose, explain a bit more of where I was coming from. I'm like a bit of a fan of Survivor. I've probably seen maybe 8 or 9 seasons, most of them when I was younger. And I always felt like there was so many players, and you guys watch way more than me, so I'm sure you can think of a few, where you have these like dud players like me, right? And they do nothing, and they just partner with someone who's real strong in alpha and an orca, and they'll just be taken to the end. And then you're just like screaming at the TV, just, stab him in the back or just do one little thing and you'll win. And they just don't do it. So that was always this. And I always felt like there's so many of those players that get to the end. So I just wanted to, ideally, at the end of the day, I really just wanted to win. I didn't really want to make good content or anything, as much as that would have been nice. I just wanted to win. And I always thought that was the best strategy. So I kind of went in with this idea of, I just want to play out this childhood fantasy of, I think this is the best strategy. And I agree, there's a lot of chance involved as well with Survivor. And I did get lucky on many occasions, but yeah, overall, I thought it was the best chance to get to the end. So yeah, I don't think I really would have done too much differently. But I think if I went on again, I definitely would.
I think that's a super fun perspective from your Survivor fandom, which I didn't appreciate. Because you're right, in the old school days, that's very much true. If you watch the current seasons, everyone's falling over themselves to turn on each other and they probably make too many moves because it's all about resume. And if you get to the end with nothing, you just can't win. So there's probably too many moves now, and people don't like that. But back in the day, you're very much true that that's what could happen. So it's an interesting perspective. And normally the LRG players are a bit more like the new school Survivor players because, again, they're super fans and they all want to make moves. And, again, everyone's falling over themselves to, do something. But equally, I think these LRGs are, for a lot of people, once-in-a-lifetime experience. And, you want to enjoy it. And you're not playing for $1 million. You're playing for fun. So no one wants to get voted out. Not because of the shame, but because you want to keep playing. You don't want to be in the next. And you're a gamer. You like playing games. You don't want to be out of the game.
Yeah. And it was so much fun. Yeah. That was definitely something that we spoke about while we were there, that, you obviously don't want to get voted out because you don't want to get voted out. You want to win, but just the fun of it. It was just so much fun. I don't need to tell you guys who have been on the show. Yeah. It was just.
I famously don't like hypotheticals and being like, what if, how if, whatever. But your game plan worked to perfection because certain things fell your way. Like we talked about how Mieta was a challenge beast and she maybe should have been on the other tribe for balancing reasons and things like that. So if you weren't playing from such a wide berth ahead, if you were on the pink tribe, again, I don't mean this as a what if, but if you had to play from the back foot, so not from a seat of power, how do you adapt your game?
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair question. Well, definitely you got to make more moves then, right? Because you're just forced into it. I suppose with the strategy that I did, obviously I was lucky to have been at none of the tribal councils until the merge, but I'm going 110% in those early challenges when we're all a group, because I just don't even want to face a tribal council because, all the dud players get voted off early. So yeah, look, I am a fan. I do know kind of how the game works. I definitely have to put myself out there more. That's probably not so much in my personality, but I like to think if I was in that position, then yeah, absolutely. I'm going to try and make those close bonds. I still think I'd play similarly in that I wouldn't try to be the Orca like Danny and Jules are, kind of shot calling, but I think I'm probably doing that thing that, and I'm going to refer to a very old season. I'm going to refer like when Boston Rob was on and he won his season, he had those 2 dud players with him. I'm probably just going to be that person, like leeching off a stronger player, or at least that would have been my plan in that situation if I wasn't pink.
It's actually really funny because you haven't been in for the whole show, but we were comparing this season to Boston Rob's Redemption Island, except Ash is the Boston Rob. So it's like Rob gets voted out of Final Four and Grant wins the season. That's what this season is. I'm sorry, that's now really offensive.
Natalie. I think Natalie's a better example in that case.
Natalie would have been a very well deserving winner. I'm just saying Grant just falls over. Actually, Grant's probably the KK. Evan's the Natalie. Okay, yeah. I agree with that.
Yeah, I think Natalie. Yeah, I think Evan's the Natalie.
Grant is the KK.
I mean, Evan, you were one of my draft picks. So at the start, pre-season, you were on my team. And I put you up as the people's choice, people's player, whatever it was, because
Walker's champion.
So I actually, whatever that was, for drinks that I can't attend because I'm in Papua New Guinea. So, I sacrificed you for that, for the good of our orcas and all of you, but you were one of my picks. And your game style is not my game style, but as a Survivor fan, I could see it was, I thought it would be effective. And I still stand by the fact that there is a ton of luck. Like Survivor is luck.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was like the blues and the pinks. And I've already harassed Danny about the fact that she took out all of the alpha people, in Nassau tribe, which meant that, maybe they didn't win as many challenges, which meant that they went into the swaps with less people. So people also make choices that influence your game as well. And
Danny deserves criticism for taking out Hannah and Xavier. Right. Everyone said the duds went, but the duds didn't go.
She knows how I feel.
We love
about
them.
That.
And Nat.
But you played the cards that you were dealt. And I don't have the ability, and I'm sure I know CK and Mark and Josh, none of us do have the ability to take the step back and just hold the line. And you had a vision and you knew that if you stuck with it, it'd keep taking you forward. We can't check our egos at the door that way. We just can't. And you were able to do that. And it's not our game style, but damn, like, even when you were wrong in votes, and you had a few votes where you just didn't know where you were going to go with it, and I think you did vote wrong a couple of times, it didn't matter because your position was solid. So I think there's a lot of credit to be given to that. And that's measured, and that you could see you were tired, and there were a few times that there was food there or something, and you said you wanted to, you wouldn't mind going and have a shower or something like that, but you held it together, and that takes a lot more, determination than I think we often give credit to, because we're the loud players. So you make good choices, and when you were tired and exhausted, you won 2 immunities in a row, and from what I hear, pretty comfortably won both of them. So, I mean, you're very humble about your game, and I don't think you should downplay it. I think you should absolutely own it. What you said you were going to do at the start, you did, and it took you all the way to the end, and you nearly had a perfect game. Nearly.
Yeah.
Which is, in an LRG world, I don't know that has ever happened.
Yeah, maybe next time. But look, there's one amendment. I changed my game a bit in that I wanted to do that original strategy that I mentioned before, that you're useless the whole game, and then you do one big play that's well timed, or you do something that's nicely done, like one big Orca play, and then have that on the resume. But there was a point, and it was probably right around the Greg vote, or maybe just after, where I had to sit down like I like to do and just kind of think where things are going and think about my position in the game. And it just felt like when I had, I hope Mieta and Christelle won't take too much offense to this, but I had 2 other useless players alongside me, and I thought, well, I actually don't need to do anything. And I think I do explain this in the show, but I don't need to do anything as long as these 2 are around. I just need one of these persons to sit next to me, because I can probably do a better job of talking with them. So yeah, so my game.
All you need to ensure was that once Greg went, that Jules went, and that Danny went, and then you were set. Your biggest risk was when Danny was still around, and if Mars and Ash woke up and were like, there's 3 of the lesser threats and 2 of us, that's not going to work. We're going to get picked off. And so you're right. And also, you were left out of the Greg vote. You were also a potential target on the Greg vote. It's probably the only time you were probably in danger throughout most of the game. I don't know if you were really aware of that, but I think you would have been savvy enough to know I was left out of that vote. I'm not necessarily in a position right now to be going balls to the wall and playing a big move. Like, I need to be remaining stable and on track.
Yeah, 100%. After that Greg vote, that was definitely felt pretty shook after that one. Though, with that said, there was a moment where I do acknowledge that, even when I'm voting, because I think I throw my vote away, basically. I end up voting for Jules or something. So it was just irrelevant. But in that, I do say to the camera as I'm voting something to the effect of, I don't know where this vote's going. I hope people stick to the plan. Immediately afterwards, when we were walking back to Tribe, I think Mars and the gang approached me, and they basically said, "Oh, sorry, Evan, we had to keep you out of that one. We knew that you were really close with Greg, and we thought that if you knew what was happening, then you would have told Greg." And then I thought that kind of adds up. But I do because I do have a confession that next episode where I basically say, I don't think this adds up. I think they actually were going for me. So though I wasn't sure, I think I did actually have a read on that one.
Yeah, you're probably like,
and I mean, and I think like Jules called you out at a tribal, I think a couple of votes later, and you had said, "Oh, I'm not even sure every vote what I'm doing." And Jules says, "Do you want this person behind, in your alliance?" But that's exactly who they wanted in their alliance. They didn't want anyone who was going to be threatening. And you didn't attack, you didn't fight back, you didn't, which would have been easy to do because, you know, Danny and Jules were at everybody, and you kind of went, no, you know, and that was what Mars and Ash, you know, the people that were in power at the time needed to hear. And that takes, like, to just sit there and go, you know what, I know what's really going on, but I don't need to spill it out to the world. I thought that was a very, you know, a telling moment of how you were controlling your game and the game around you, I thought.
It goes to a comment Mars said before here in talking about when you know you knew you couldn't beat Ash, and that awareness and humility is incredible, and it can't be easy on the ego. And I think that's the thing. You know, you were getting these responses, you were getting these comments, and you were not reacting. You know, you're even thinking, how am I going to be perceived on this? Probably not incredibly well, especially if I don't win. But I have a strategy, and I'm going to keep with my strategy is working. Like, you could see that your strategy was working, and you kept with it irrespective of these other things. You didn't pivot. A pivot would have been unnecessary and could have resulted in you being voted out earlier. You won, so it worked. I think that being sure about your strategy and everything you did was always incredibly considered. Like, in the pressure cooker of this sort of game, you had a plan, you always had a plan, and you always were considered in the move that you made. You made it for a reason, and generally that reason was correct. Your reads were correct. You know, you may have voted wrong, and then they try and placate you with this, you might have told Greg bullshit. And, you know, you go, wait a minute, that feels like bullshit. And it is. Of course it is. Right. But you don't, how you then react to that and how you then reingratiate yourself with that group is critical, because they have the numbers still. So everything you did, I think, was very, very considered, and everything about your win was considered. And I think that's something really to be admired.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I did. I definitely did feel like flipping after the Greg vote, after feeling like I'm definitely on the bottom of this. But it just felt like at that time, that was probably right around the time where I really reconsidered a lot of things and kind of started thinking about my map to the end of the game. And it just felt like there was too many strong players still in the game, and they just got to start eating each other up. And I think, you know, you guys were there, you guys were analyzing the season, you basically predicted every single vote that was happening because the votes just became really obvious. And fortunately, they just aligned pretty well with what I wanted. At the end of the day, I don't care if Danny goes home first or Jules goes home second or vice versa. As long as they're going home pretty, you know, one after the other, that's all good. And that's basically what happened.
And that's a really interesting point you make there, because that was one of the moves that Mars actively said, I'm in control of the game. I switched the vote from Danny to Jules. And at the time we went, who cares? What difference does it make what order that they go in? It doesn't matter. And the fact that, you know, you just said it didn't matter what order they went in. Who decided whether one went or the other went? It kind of was irrelevant to the game. And you had this sort of this calm foresight that I don't think a lot of other people had. You know, everyone else was sort of thinking in the moment and the big move and the next move. And I do think you seem to have, and listening to you now, you seem to have a lot more foresight in how the game is going to play out.
I think they had to live in the moment to some extent, though. Like those bigger plays, they were kind of at that point in the game, that later point around, you know, when there were 7 of us left or so, like they kind of needed to fight for themselves every single vote, because it could have been one of them every single vote. So I kind of get why they had to do that. And I was just in a great position by that point, because who's going to waste a vote on me when there's Danny and, you know, Ash and Mars still in the game?
Mark, do you have a final question?
I've got a question. Well, I have 2, but whatever. I just think you've obviously thought about the game a lot, like a lot. So who do you attribute your win to? And I mean that in the sense of, like, not obviously you earned the win, but who do you think fumbled the way that they managed your presence in the game the most?
Oh yeah, that's a good question. I think the obvious answer is Ash, but I'm just trying to think if that's actually the right answer. Because Ash tried to get me out at multiple times as well, though it wasn't too strongly. I suppose, there was obviously the Greg vote where they ultimately went Greg, who was, I feel like, the stronger player at the time. I think there was another vote where she kind of loosely threw out voting me out.
I think more so KK was often throwing you out to Ash, and Ash was like, no, we're not doing that.
Yeah, it was a bit of KK as well.
I think you and Mars had a solid relationship that actually blindsided him a little bit. That he had you a lot more solidly than he actually did.
He felt like you locked in the case.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they don't show that so much in the edit. They don't show too many of our conversations, but Mars and I actually had quite a few conversations. Yeah, you know what? I think you might be right. It's between Ash and Mars probably, but it might actually have been Mars.
I think you cut Mars.
If you had ditched him and shifted, I mean, it could have gone.
I think that's true. I think it's Mars.
Because he was a bit of a shield in that way. I was very aware of where I was sitting on a few different metrics, one of them being challenges. And I was very aware of trying to make, well, obviously Nieto was, number one, but I wanted him to be a solid number two, or at least in front of me, maybe as a 3 or a 4. So yeah, I suppose misjudging my relationship on that scale, and I suppose also him misjudging how I felt about the game and how I felt him being a strong player. Yeah, that was probably a misread on a few different accounts. So yeah, maybe that's Mars.
I'll sneak in with my second question because CK said one and I take two. You mentioned that you really did kind of agree with a lot of our takes throughout the game. But 100%. If you watched the cast assessment where we discussed our feelings towards you and when Loz picked you, what was your initial reaction to, the first bit of content around you? Obviously, knowing you win the season, so how did you feel about the first assessments?
When Loz picked me in that for the drinks, I was really confused. I thought that was such a strange pick. It kind of made sense in that I think to stick to one tribe or members from one tribe probably statistically would have made the most sense for people getting to final 5. But I felt like Mars and Ash were presenting in a very similar way in their initial introductions to camera, but I was presenting very differently. So it was kind of a left field kind of pick. I was obviously impressed. I thought, wow, you clearly had a bit of a read on the game, and I'm not really sure what you saw in me there, but thanks.
All right, so I'm going to finish off with one thing that maybe we could have done better for you, because I've thought about it in this moment, and one thing that you were the absolute best at in this season and potentially in ORCAs. So the thing that we could have done better is I think if we'd produced you more in the confessionals, we could have got some really good escape room analogies going. Like my game, I designed my game like I design an escape room. This is the end point, and then I'm working back from here to here, and then sometimes people in a escape room, they need some help and they get I think we could have done some really good stuff with producing you.
Missed opportunity.
I would have hated that. I would have absolutely hated that. And to be clear, I didn't even have the escape room back then. I just sold it at the time, so I wasn't even working as an escape room owner at that time.
Sure, but you had the escape room and you designed the puzzles, right? It would have been fun.
I suppose.
The thing you did the best of anyone in any LRG, when the cast were cast and they were told what to bring and what not, I was very clear about wanting interesting clothes. I don't want Dale and his grey sweatpants on my season that we're putting together. We want quality clothing. And he came with, every time I watch the intro credits, I see the amazing hat and also the jacket with the epaulets. And I'm like, this shit rocks. He has such a clear, unique look, absolutely understood the brief, didn't come in the active wear. You deserve so many props for coming on for such a great outfit. The Deer Stalker especially. So I love that.
Thank you.
It was.
The jacket was just the
You
oldest,
own it.
warmest jacket I had. The beanie I love. I've got it right here with me. Would you like me to put it on,
Let's
CK?
see it. Put on the
Yes.
beanie. Yes, we want to do the beanie.
I love this beanie.
It's a
So
beautiful
yeah, this
beanie.
was
I love
a
it.
no-brainer. But yeah,
It's a
the
trophy
jacket was
now.
just,
You have to keep it as a trophy now.
yeah, absolutely.
It's so good. We love it.
Thank you.
I guess the final question was when you got revealed, and particularly it's when you wear the beanie, and that was the first episode. How did it feel with there being so many comparisons? Because you're a good friend of Mars, and everyone's saying you look exactly like her fiance.
Oh yeah, that's so funny. That's just been a big inside joke from the start. When you might already know this story, but when Ma first met Nick, she asked if he had a twin brother, because he had a twin brother. He asked if he had a brother called Evan. Yeah, so she actually thought.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Was that right? I might be getting that story slightly wrong. Ma will remind me. Anyway, yeah, she basically thought. Yeah. So yeah, there's kind of been like a running joke between us, and yeah, since the podcast came out, I've been being referred to as Beta Nick and him as Alpha Evan. So yeah, that's why we kind of refer to each other as.
Harsh. If he doesn't show up at the wedding, you can step in, put the hat on, and step in. Greg wants to know, what did you do with the money?
I joked because to answer one of your questions from earlier, the final tribal was way more savage than it was edited to be. I joked about it when I was first asked afterwards, and I said I would use it for therapy, but I think I probably just put it to rent or something. Don't think I did anything interesting. Oh, actually, no, I didn't. I took Ma and Nick out to dinner because Ma was the one who ultimately told me that I should apply. So I kind of wanted to thank her, and obviously she's done so much work on it. I want to give her a bit of a thanks.
Amazing.
But yes, I know I have you to thank for that, CK. So thank you very much. It was a very generous prize pool.
It would have been more if I hadn't lost so much money at the casino that week. Sorry.
I remember you said that at the time as well.
Could have been like $2,000. Anyway, it was supposed to be 1,000, but I lost like $3,000 or $4,000 at the casino. I'm doing fucking about it. But yes, thank you, Evan. You're also probably the first person to ever get their money because I made sure you got it. A lot of people have won money in these things and they never get it. Congratulations, Evan. Well done. A very well thought out and considered win, even if it's not flashy. It was clearly a strong performance based on a clear game plan that you executed to perfection while wearing an absolutely fantastic hat. What could we ask for more from a winner of this season? Congratulations again, Evan.
Thanks very much. And thanks for your coverage. It's been really exciting and fun to listen to. So well done to you guys.
Thanks, Evan.
Thank you.
And that wraps up our coverage. Mostly, as I said, we've got some further coverage coming. I'm just going to recap that quickly. It's gone 2 hours now. Next week, slight detour from the Uncharted waters, special episode, myself, Danny, and Jules. We're doing a special episode sort of midway through the Canberra Season 4 drop. There's a reason for that. The reason will become clear when we do our show next week. Then back to Uncharted waters, and we will be doing the Tea Party. Annabelle, Greg, Lentil King Greg, finally gets to debate Jules and Danny in the flesh. That's going to be outrageous. And then, of course, the crowning of the Orca. Before we go to that, of course, we need to award one more Orca Brommy of the episode so that they can be in the eligible pool. We've got Danny's got a few, Jules got a few, Greg's got a couple, Hannah, Nat, and Ash have them. It's a chance to give anyone that made the jury an Orca if we so feel inclined, or one of the finalists. What do you guys think, Loz?
For me, it's Ash, and it's the fuck you, Evan. You're not having a perfect game. I'm going to vote for Christelle. That's the Orca move.
Mark?
So,
you know me, I always love to come up with a fringe answer, but I have to double down on Ash. I think I agree. I think Evan had a strong point of view with his game, such a clear POV, but to me, it wasn't a perfect game because a perfect game needs a bit of spice. And Ash taking that away, I feel like that was the most Orca. It was a win for the Orcas. It really was because we needed that win.
It really was. Yeah.
And I was actually a little bit worried it wasn't going to make the edit especially when, we got Ash's vote and that part of it had been cut out in the actual thing. I'm like, oh, Ma hasn't put it in because it's a bit mean. And then when we got all the voting confessionals at the very end, and that was the last scene of the entire
It was
show,
gold.
fake out
It was just
and beautiful gold. Who am I to doubt your editing prowess, Ma? Amazing way to end the
Beautiful.
season.
It
Obviously,
just
Ma's
hurts.
editing
Yeah.
has been spectacular. I've been saying to everyone that while this season, or for many years, I was very proud of the effort everyone involved in the organization of this season put into it. I think we worked really hard to make a really great season from a production point of view. We had every confidence that Ma would make an incredible edit and produce an incredible show. We were always a bit saddened that the gameplay was somewhat not spicy. It's just not spicy gameplay. It's not what we got. But we knew that from a production point of view, and you can't control that, but what we could control was the production and the edit and the production of the edit and what has been put together. Ma was also the person who ran all the production as well in terms of actually organizing us all. We all did our parts, but in terms of the organization. So it's really her baby, and what she's produced has been absolutely exceptional. I think we can all agree with that. One of the just finest piece of video crafting in the LRG world. And so there'll be more thanks to Mara in the production episode, but I just wanted to note it now. Join us next week. Danny and Jules and I back on screen. And then as we round out the coverage, and if you've been enjoying Loz and Mark and Josh, who I'm sure you have been enjoying when they're not lagging out in other countries, looking at you, Josh and Mark, we will be covering Sydney too in April. So join us all back then for more exciting coverage. The Orcas continue. Thank you, Loz and Mark, for being here tonight. Josh for his cameo. Ash, Evan, and Nieta for their interviews. Everyone that was here live, we love having you live. Everyone that listens after the fact, we love you too, just a little bit less. Everyone that complains when I don't put it on Spotify soon enough so you can listen to it on your run and then I get motivated to put it on Spotify. That's you, Adam, I'm talking to. Love to you as well. We love to hear that you're listening whichever way you are. So thank you so much for your continued support. Thank you to all the players of Uncharted Waters for giving us a great season to cover and the production involved. There's more to come, as I've said, but until then, we will see you next week. And until then, we shall dance.